This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. Today we are joined by the one and only Mr. Jim Effner, and he's here today to talk to you about how you can build passive revenue streams and active revenue streams in your agency through life insurance. So Jim, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you here. Why don't you take just a couple of seconds and sort of give everybody your background so they understand that we didn't just find you standing on a corner and bring you in to interview you today. I mean, you're a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So real quick, my background is I've been in this industry for 32 years. And what makes me unique is that I have worn pretty much every hat you could wear in the industry. So I started right out of college. Back in 1989, I hope I don't look that old, but I am. So I started right out of college, 1989, 22 years old, selling life insurance for a company called Northwestern Mutual, and made the $1 million roundtable right out of the gates, and led the company in sales, was Rookie of the Year, ended up being part of their most prestigious organization called Forum, which is the top 5% of their reps, and I was the youngest in the company to qualify for that, back-to-back years. Did that for 12 full-time years, and then I became a managing partner, which is an owner of a territory in the Northwestern Mutual's distribution system. So I had 120 financial reps underneath me in my firm and about 400 people. I did that for 14 and a half years. I sold that back in 2015, and I founded this company, P2P Group, which is all about sales training. And P2P stands for taking one's true potential and turning it into real performance. And I specialize in helping advisors maximize their potential with particular interest in life insurance sales, and have a lot of experience now in the P&C industry with a number of companies doing that as well.
What led you to start P2P? Did you just have a passion for the training aspect of things, or because you were running a shop for quite a while and then transitioned?
Yeah. Everybody asked me that question. I would say that at that point in time, I had been doing this for 27 years, and when you have an organization with 400 people, it's a big job. And
yeah.
I felt like at that point in time, I earned the right to do only what I loved doing with people I loved doing it with in something that significantly mattered. And I'd say probably as a managing partner, about 70% of my time I was doing that, but about 30% of the time I was putting out fires. I was dealing with compliance. I was dealing with just all kinds of stuff that you deal with when you're a CEO running an organization with 400 people. And at that point in time, I'm like, I want to have fun. I want to make a difference. I want to have an impact, and I want to wake up every day and love what I'm doing. And so
Sure.
I'm going to get out of that big corporate world, sell it, and go have some fun. And it has really turned out to explode, but it's exploding in a way that, now I have 3 full-time people. I have no brick and mortar. Everybody works out of their house, even pre-COVID. And I say no to more opportunities than I say yes to. And I make sure that when I do say yes, it's almost like a hobby. I'm doing what I love doing, and I couldn't do what I do today without what I did in the past, and so I have zero regrets. but I'm in a good spot right now.
I
Nice.
can tell you this too, my friend. Your email inbox looks entirely different today than it did when you had an organization with 400 people. And I can say that from personal experience. You may not know this, but I have an online ecosystem that's got about 225 PNC users in it that we train PNC producers how to go out and sell middle market property and casualty accounts. And my favorite part of the day is coming in and seeing that one of those people has won and won big. That's the gas that drives my engine every day.
No question. And I get those all the time. And it's incredibly, I mean, now that is, I would say my psychic income is way more valuable to me than my financial income at this stage of my career. And it's been, I've been blessed. It's been awesome.
I agree with you. I mean, you and I are the same generation. You're not that much older than I am, just a couple years, honestly. And, I, over the last several years, I've really just changed my focus on what it is I want to get out of my career. And it's not money. It's satisfaction. Now, money can lead to satisfaction in some cases, but knowing that I have a skill set that other people can learn from, and some people would say is a gift, and being able to share that gift with other people and make them see how they can be successful as a result is more rewarding than any check that I've ever cashed.
Yeah, totally agree.
For sure.
So PNC people, we're a little bit of a different breed. I mean, if we do life, it's typically because we have the quote unquote life guy in the agency. There's always a life guy. It's whether it's inside the agency or it's somebody that you refer it to. I'm interested in how you are able to start the dialogue with PNC agents in order to get them to engage in the life conversation, because I think, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because life can be a very nice revenue stream for a property and casualty agent, and if you're looking at a risk management approach, should be in every conversation with business owners and partners. But I think it gets viewed as a distraction, and because of that, never really gets dealt with to the level that it should from property and casualty agents. So how do you overcome that obstacle?
Yeah, well, I really don't. And what I mean by that is that, as I mentioned, I only do this with people, I only work with people that really want, that I want to work with. And the people I want to work with are people that want to grow. And so I don't want to convince anybody to come to one of my workshops because of the fact that they got strong armed or their leader or their sales manager or whatever convinced them to do it. So the people that show up to our workshops are people that come with an open mind, that are willing to invest both their money and their time because they have a desire to want to grow. They have a desire to want to get better. They have a desire to want to maximize the potential that they know is out there, but they don't know how. And they're fearful and they're uncomfortable talking about life and they don't know how to do it and they've never been taught how to do it and they know they're not good at doing it, but they're coming to our workshop because they have a desire to learn and they're willing to invest their time and their money to do so. So, and once people get there, it's still a tough job and we could spend hours, and I know neither of us have that much time as to why that's such a challenge, why they don't do it and all that kind of stuff. But at least when they're in my workshops, they're coming with that open-mindedness and that desire to learn. I am not convincing anybody to come to my workshop. So what I'll do is I'll talk to a corporate office. I'll talk to a large territory manager that maybe manages an entire state or sometimes 3 or 4 states. And I'll tell them about the workshop, and then they'll go and work with their PNC reps and hand pick, who they think should come to the workshop. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. I mean, it basically is my exact philosophy of who I'll work with. I don't want to have to beg somebody to try and help them be successful. They either want to or they don't, is my opinion. Right. And so, and that's important too, especially with what we do, because it's an online environment, and I'm building a culture online, and you can only do that if you have like-minded people that buy into the process, period. Right. I've got a saying, Kyle will nod, I say it all the time. To me, in any portion of this business, insurance, regardless of what the coverage lines are, if you have a process in place and it's proven, it's replicable, and it's been successful, it's never the process. It's always the person. And for me, when people engage, even if they want to um, want to willingly come into my program, at some point I'm not even a sales coach, sales trainer, mentor, whatever you want to call me. I become a psychologist, because the biggest obstacle I overcome when dealing with a producer who has the ability to go out and get in front of accounts that are going to pay them 25, 50, $100,000 in commissions is to get them to believe they're capable of doing it. And I think that it's sexy. I think that they look at it and they think, wow, that would be a great paycheck to have. And then all of a sudden they get an appointment booked and they start freaking out. And you have to talk them off the ledge. You got to get them to say, hey, look, your existence is validated because you've got the meeting. I mean, the meeting's the hardest thing to get. If you
True.
can get in the door, now go to be yourself and do what you need to do. And so I'm interested, talk a little bit about the format of your workshops and how that has been developed over the course of the years.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I just want to say I couldn't agree more that you become a psychologist and it's about the people. And when I open up every workshop, I'm very crystal clear with them to say that every single one of them has the same barrier, and the same barrier that they have is their fear. And the inherent fear that they have is the fear of what other people think of them. And if they govern their behavior within the confinement of that fear, they'll always be limited as to what they can accomplish. But if they're willing to run through the ring of fire, which is their fear, and slowly but surely make progress, and then through that progress break through to reach their potential, they can move mountains, right? But they got to understand that it's their fear that holds them back. And it's not rational, it's not logical, but yet it is real. And so, therefore, what you have to work on is, first and foremost, I've always said the genesis of all growth is an acute sense of self-awareness. So for them to be aware of that. And then what you have to do in this workshop is you have to give them tools to be able to fight that off. And, confidence is really what fights off fear. People who are successful, like you guys, you did not succeed in the absence of fear. You had fear as well because you're a human, right? We all do, but you succeed even with it. And how you do that is you build the mental muscle of confidence. And how you build the mental muscle of confidence for most people, there's the 1%ers that are just born naturally confident, but for most people, it's progress over time, and it starts by little successes, and then they pile on top of each other, and as those occur, they build the mental muscle of confidence, which therefore helps them fight off their fear. So what it is I do in the workshop is I give them the tools that are necessary, the arrows in their quiver, to be able to give them the highest probability of a successful outcome, and that is through, basic sales skills. And there's a lot that go into that. And so that's the kind of 30,000 foot answer to your question. But I would say if I took it just a step deeper, it's that we take a 3-dimensional approach to everything we teach. The first is mindset, because our mind body follows. And so they got to get really, 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 really clear what goes on in the 6 inches in between their ears. And the reality is most advisors, most P&C agents have a lot of subconscious, what I call self-defeated thinking. And they got to get it out. They got to get it out, and they got to pour in a bunch of empowered thinking. They got to get their mind in the right spot. So I spend a lot of time on beliefs, on conviction, on mindset. And then I spend a lot of time on systems. Stood the test of time. I call them systems. It's the same thing. I give them a system that has stood the test of time, that is proven, and then I give them language. And so I work on mindset, systems, and peers within that, pillars, I should say, not peers, and that is repetition and accountability. And repetition is the mother of all learning. So how they do each aspect of that system, they got to practice it over and over again. The accountability is when they attend our workshop, they do live role playing in it in the follow-up sessions, so that they can prove that they've taken, they've learned, they've demonstrated that they've practiced it, and now they can implement it. So that's a lot to your question. Hopefully that brings some clarity.
Well, it does. I'm interested, though, consistently, and I've seen this too. I mean, you're dead on the money with the deep-seated or subconscious self-doubt in the
Right.
thought process. What are the patterns you see? I mean, what do you think drives that?
Oh, there's no question what drives it is their fears. So for example, let's talk about why a PNC agent doesn't sell life insurance because it seems like a no-brainer. Well, we all know that most don't, and the ones that do are not very good at it, right? And they don't sell anywhere near what they're and so they have a thought around I'm not very good at this. They have a lot of thoughts that are around things like I don't want to look bad. What if this person asks me a question I don't know? When
Hmm.
talking to their financial advisor, that advisor knows so much more about life insurance than me. He or she's going to run circles around me. They go in with self-defeated thinking like the person's all set. The person got it through work. The person's all good. They're covered. They don't need any more. They go into self-defeated thinking this person doesn't want to talk about this, so therefore I don't want to, I don't want to upset them. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but it all stems from their fear around looking bad, and we all have an inherent need. Go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs to be loved, and in this business, just being liked, right? And so a lot of their self-defeated thinking is around that if I go into life insurance conversation, this person's not gonna like me. And so that holds them back as well.
I wonder why that is. Like, I wonder why people, think that way. Think that somebody's not going to like them just for bringing up something like life insurance. Is it because it's a more personal thing than, say, when we're talking to somebody about workers' comp or whatever? I mean,
I
it's
could tell you what it is. The industry in itself has a tarnished reputation in the eye of the majority of people. When you say life insurance, people think of Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day, and
You got it. That's exactly right.
or you can take it another step. I mean, if you look at the evolution of how some of this stuff has come about, Kyle, I mean, you've had a lot of different sales jobs. I can look back way back when
are you
I
roasting me
actually
right now?
no, no, not at all. I mean, but you understand how some of these
No, I know.
processes work because you've done the door to door thing. And I mean,
Yeah.
I know that I actually rode with a door to door life insurance sales guy one day who was selling debit life policies.
Hmm.
And his job was to recruit me to go in and try and do that. And we stood there at the door. We would knock. He had his flip chart and he would name everybody on the street that he had already talked to. And I mean, the whole thing, it was just like I felt like I needed to take
How
a
have I not
shower
heard
when I
about
went
this
home.
before? How have I not
Yeah.
heard about this
Well,
experience?
I was like 19 or 20, back in those days, and my fear and doubt was nobody's going to listen to me about life insurance. I'm barely out
True.
of high school, right?
Right.
But I just think that that's a lot of what people think it is, and the truth of the matter is that's not the case. I mean, an affliction that a business owner or a consumer needs to get out of their head. I mean, they need to get
Right.
that doubt out of their own mind because life insurance is probably arguably the most important insurance anybody can buy. I mean, I could probably make an argument that third party liability ranks right up there with them, depending on what their asset base looks like and all of that. But I mean, I just think that reputation is the biggest thing, and and I think that when you think things like that, or you hear things, and I can tell you, Jim, I took the life exam in Florida maybe 3-4 years ago because I wanted to begin adding that in to do buy sell agreements and key man policies and things like that for my clients. And when I took the test, I walked out of there shaking my head thinking, oh my goodness, no wonder people hate life insurance agents. This entire test was based on stealing from old people. Like every single question that was on there had to do with either money laundering or misrepresentation or whatever else. And I began to realize really quickly they're testing me on this because this is either really happening and people are getting burnt, or this is what is validating some level of the perception. So, I mean, I think that's what it is. I'm interested in your
Makes
thoughts,
sense.
Jim, but I think it's just how people perceive the industry that then creates the fear inside the person that's supposed to sell the product.
Oh, no question. That the perception is it's not needed. Everybody needs car insurance, everybody needs homeowners insurance, everybody needs some form of liability and so on and so forth, but the consumer knows it. So it's not whether or not they're going to get it, it's who they're going to get it from, right? But most are going to die, and most people don't think they need life insurance. And so therefore, all the things you said on top of the fact that, people perceive that's not necessary. And then, the abuse of it in the industry and the reputation the movie Groundhog Day is real, and every agent knows that, and that's the last thing they want to be perceived by. Let's face it, people want to be liked. They want to behave in a manner that, their customers or clients, whatever they want to call them, like them. And
Hmm.
a lot of people feel that that's going to be, broken down if they push too hard on the life insurance piece.
I think there's also some apprehension that when you are liked and when you do get the relationship, that somehow life insurance is a more personal conversation. And so you don't want to put your PNC book at risk by bringing up life because you just don't feel comfortable. I really think it's because you don't feel comfortable talking about it. You don't
Hmm.
have the product knowledge and being completely transparent. I don't. I've
Yeah.
aligned myself with people that if I have these life cases, I refer them to them. And that's really why I got my license. I understand at a very basic and fundamental level the questions I need to ask to qualify whether or not somebody should have the life insurance conversation, like, do you have a buy sell agreement in place as business partners? If something were to happen to one of you, do you really want to be partners with your deceased partner's ex-wife, do you, or widow,
Hmm.
or when, if you do have one, when's the last time it was updated? And I can go down the basic blocking and tackling questions, but when it comes to looking at policy structure and do we need something that's variable, do we need whole life, do we need term, and all of that, that's where I'm out. And I'm out on an intentional basis because I'm really, really good at what I'm really, really good at. And it takes a lot of room in my head for me to retain that information. So, if I want to go in and talk to somebody about workers' comp, I can go all day long. I can make the
Right.
financial case. I can give them the information that they need. We can talk legislation. We can talk about training. We can talk about return to work and all of that stuff. I can't do that on life because I just don't have the bandwidth to do it based on how I'm wired. So I want to have a partner that I can go to that I know does have that bandwidth. And as long as I can do the pre qualification and then go and refer that business over, it works really, really well for me. And that's kind of one of the reasons how we got hooked up with Bestow, right? Is
Hmm.
because that's really a very much a path of least resistance based on what we've been able to do so far. I mean, that's
Right.
a digital transaction. And again, I'm going to stop and ask Jim for feedback or his thoughts on that, and then I'm gonna make another statement about kind of why I think this is going to be very successful for our agency.
Well, the reality, if you really want to maximize the potential you have in your increase the sale of life insurance, you really have two routes you can go. The route you just said, or the route of learning it yourself. And there is no right or wrong. It's really what it is that you want to do and what you want to engage in. But David, what you just said, you summed it up perfectly, is exactly why PNC agents do not get involved in life insurance sales because of what you
Hmm.
said. You're like, listen, you want to talk about workman's comp? I can talk about it all day long. And I can talk about it with the best of the best of the best. You want to go into the intricacies of life insurance? I'm going to look pretty stupid because I don't really know all that stuff. And so therefore, I don't want to look like that. So therefore, I'm not going to engage in that conversation. But at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. And so when people come to my workshop, the profile there are people that want to be comfortable talking about life insurance as they are talking about workman's comp. And it's not all that difficult. It's not rocket science, but it does take some time and it does take the will to get a little bit uncomfortable. And that really brings up a whole, that is that a lot of us, also, most of us, are programmed to seek comfort, right? And so when I go work with a PNC agent, and if you really want to face the biggest challenge I have, is the fact that in every city it's a different number. It's different in North Dakota than it is in city, but they're making X, okay, and X is bigger than their parents ever made, and it's a good six-figure income. And if they've been doing the business for a while, they got a pretty good, if not a really good, work-life balance, and they're happy and they're comfortable. And in order
Hmm.
to embrace life insurance is going to be very uncomfortable. And they would sit back and go, why would I do that? There's a lot of interpersonal risk. I don't understand it. It'd take a lot of time. If I want to here's what I'll hear a lot. If I want to put that much time and effort into it, I'll go double my workman's comp business in areas that I'm competent. I'll go double this. I'll go double that. Why would I learn life insurance? It's too hard. I don't know it. And I'm happy. That just sums it up right there. And that's why all the major companies out there are struggling to sell life insurance, from the big gorilla out there in State Farm to Allstate to American Family, and now Geico, Progressive, all of them. They can't figure it out. They can't get their agents to sell life insurance. It's been flat for 3 decades. It's a major area of opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that if anybody listening to this were to go through their book of business right now and just line out every single client you have and then put a check mark next to who you have engaged for life, you're probably going to have a list of your clients with no check marks on it, or maybe 1 or 2, because they made it so easy for you to have that conversation, because they said, hey, will you sell me some life insurance? I need it because I'm going to go, and that's where I think.
Yeah, that's
right,
so true.
exactly.
Amazing stat out there. You guys should be aware of this if you're not already, that 91% of all P&C customers, if their P&C agent doesn't talk to them about life insurance, they will talk to nobody about life insurance.
That's interesting. I
Nobody.
did not know that stat, but that's
Life insurance
overwhelming.
is not bought, it's sold.
Well,
So
I
people
think.
would come and say, I need a car today. I need a new roof today. I need workman's comp today. I need this today. I got to go out and I got to look at the market and I got to buy it. Nobody wakes up and says, I might die today. I'm going to go buy
Right.
some life insurance. The people who buy life insurance are somebody sought them out, called them, had a conversation with them, and moved them to action. But they didn't wake up saying, I got to go buy some life insurance today, right? And so therefore 90% of the clientele of all P&C agents, they're not talking to anybody, nobody, right? And so the real ultimate thing is what I think is the biggest opportunity. All these insurance companies have tried for years to figure out, how do we increase the sale of life insurance? And the 2 levers that they have, and they change them all the time, are compensation and rewards. Rewards are like the trips they qualify for that they can go on, and compensation is obvious, right? And they'll even say that, hey, if you sell X amount of life policies, we'll give an extra, few bumps on your P&C book of business. We'll increase your payout on that. We'll do this, we'll do that. And then they wonder why none of them are working, or at least are not working over a sustainable period of time. No matter how many times they move those dials, they don't work. They're not sustainable, okay? And the only one that is when the P&C agent can look themselves in the mirror and say, what is my job? And is doing my job more important than the size of my paycheck? And although you should never, what's awesome about this business, a lot more money, and going on a lot of awesome trips is awesome. And you should never, ever apologize for that. But that's an ancillary benefit, not a primary. The primary benefit is you're an insurance agent. Your job is to make your client bulletproof. You do an awesome job of making them bulletproof in the P&C world. But if a major breadwinner of a household dies prematurely, that's a huge problem, and they're not bulletproof. So when you kind of walk into the sunset after a 30 or 40-year career, what are you going to reflect back on? And they can put their head on the pillow and say, man, job well done. I'm proud of what I built. I think it would be that you took a tremendous amount of pride and you focused on making sure one customer at a time was bulletproof. And when you had to engage in an uncomfortable conversation in order to do your job, you did it because it was important to you, right? And those are the people that are attracted to me and my workshops, who take a ton of pride in a statement that says, if you're a customer or you're a client of mine, you're lucky because I'm really, 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 really good at what I do. And I really care. and I demonstrate that I care through the behavior that I exhibit in my practice. And those are the people that really want to incorporate life insurance because they know it's important. And they'll do it whether it's uncomfortable or not, simply because it's the right thing to do, not only because of incentives and recognition and rewards.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think if we're honest with ourselves and we're looking in the mirror and saying, what is our job? At its core function, it's to protect someone's livelihood, right? And that doesn't isolate itself to just the fact their business that they own. I mean, you're
That's
leaving a gaping hole, and we do have a responsibility to our clients. And, you know, am I great about it? You know, I bet I've talked to 50% of my book. Okay, so that means I've got an opportunity to double my life
Right.
presence just by going out and talking to the other 50%. But
Mm-hmm.
listen, PNC agents out there that are hearing this, I've been preaching this for over a year now. One of the number one things you should be talking about coming out of COVID is the country becomes more and more open is those conversations around life. I'm willing to bet that a percentage of your book that is relatively substantial was affected by COVID in some way.
Right.
Whether the owner got it or the partner got it or a key person got it and they couldn't maximize their revenue because that person was out of work, those conversations around life insurance and disability, key man, buy, sell, otherwise, should 100% be on the table, because if you're not having them right now, your competition will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good
exactly right.
point. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of when you were talking about that number of 91% of people not looking at it if their agent doesn't bring it up. I mean, I would think that COVID had to have had an impact on that and made some people think twice. So I totally agree with you, David. I think if we're not having that conversation, somebody else is reaching out to them, and that's an opportunity for them to take business from you.
Not only that, but it's you know, let's look at the silver lining of this. The silver lining of this is that there's a massive opportunity to stand out in a way that's very different, because most PNC agents are not having the conversations. And so when you, as a PNC agent, decide to have them, you're different than the experience of the majority of PNC relationships. And because of that, you have a higher level of retention. And one of the pain points for a PNC agent is, you know, when customers, clients leave because of price, because it's just a transaction and it's just a commodity. The up, they don't like it, they shop it, they find a lower premium, and they move on. Well, if you're talking to your customers about life insurance and you have a relationship with them, then the relationship supersedes the commodity, and it doesn't just come on price, and they value that, and therefore your retention increases dramatically. And when premiums go in all their other lines, if the relationship is there through the conversations you built around life insurance, you have a much higher level of retention. And that's been proven as well. But, you know, in the world we live in, I talk about DNA. And DNA is what's different, new, and attractive. And when you build a relationship, you know, it's really, it's different. It's really different. You know, when I started in the PNC world, I told you earlier, with a company called Northwestern Mutual, and I spent 27 years there. So the PNC world was new to me 6 years ago. And I did a lot of my homework. I did a lot of research. I did a lot of fact finding. And, you know, when I polled about 50 people that I had a lot of respect for, you know how many of them have ever met their PNC agent? I mean, met them.
Really?
Like five out of 50. You know, 45 had never even met their State Farm agent or their Allstate agent or their American Family agent. Never even met with them. And not only that, never even had a conversation with them. They talked to their staff. Right?
Interesting.
It's crazy. You know what I mean? So
It is crazy.
when you sell life insurance, you got to have a relationship. You got to have a conversation with them, right? And so it's just it's a
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think the hardest thing for PNC agents to do is to start that conversation. So, I mean, what's a great way for them to do that without giving away too much of your, you know, obviously people need to, you know, get linked up with you and do your training for all the secret sauce, but what's an easy way for them to start that conversation so that they feel comfortable with it?
well, you know, first and foremost, they got to get in tune with their conviction and their belief. So if I call you up, Kyle, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm your PNC agent, I want to get together and do an overall review with you, and I particularly want to spend some time on life insurance because I think I can help. And you say to me, "Well, Jim, thanks a lot, but I'm good with that. I got it through work. I'm all covered, and I'm busy. No thanks." Well, if my belief is not stronger than your belief, I'm done, right?
Sure.
And so, I'm I definitely do teach some language, and I'd be happy to give an example of that to you. But first and foremost, it's got to start with me believing that, Kyle, I don't care if you're busy, I don't care if you have it through work, I don't care what you say. The bottom line is that you absolutely positively need to go through a process to assess whether or not you got the right kind and the right amount. And if after going through that process you have the right kind and the right amount, I'll stand up and high five you, dude, and I'll
Sure.
say, "Great job, you're good." But if not, now's the time to know, because you love your wife too much, you love your kids too much. It's, this is too important, and we got to sit down and we got to have a conversation. I don't care if you're busy or not. Let's go. Get your calendar out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say because of what I believe. And so that's what it really has to come down to is the courage of a PNC agent who gets that belief to pick up the phone and call that customer and say, "Listen, Kyle, we got to get together because my job is to make you bulletproof, and we haven't done a thorough any review in a while, and I want to set up some time, and I want to make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. What day next week works best for you?"
Right.
And then
And that goes
be able
back
to
to your
have,
point about, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's all right. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say that goes back to your point about having that mindset of needing to take care of everybody and making sure that they're properly covered versus just operating off of, oh well, this particular carrier is going to throw me some more incentives and a trip and whatever. Like, who cares about that? That's not going to allow you to have that type of belief, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, the bottom
Yeah.
line for PNC agents out there is you've got to quit selling products. You need to
Yeah.
solve problems. If you can figure out how to solve a problem, you're always going to get the product sale done. And you can't do that without uncovering what those problems are. You have to ask the question. So going through reviews like this on the life side is really no different than going through a risk assessment when you're walking through somebody's manufacturing facility looking to see, do they have lockout, tagout? Do they have everything ergonomically correct?
Mm-hmm.
We can do that in our sleep. When it comes down to looking at the financial aspect of the business, number one, I think some of us probably, if you're like me and it took you 3 times to get through accounting because they scheduled it on Thursday morning and Wednesday was drink and drown, you probably aren't as good with your numbers as you think, or at least you're not comfortable with it. But the fact is that, protecting the financial portion of these businesses is huge. And I'm going to tell you, people, I don't consider myself to be a fortune teller, but everything I've told you over the course of the last year has come true. I told you coming out of COVID, cyber was going to harden. It was going to become a big deal for agencies across the country to be on their game when it comes to cyber. I told you that when it comes to management liability, D&O, EPLI, fiduciary, it was going to be a big deal. The cyber market is the hardest it's ever been since I've been in this industry. The D&O market is the hardest it's been in years. And guess what? The third one was life. You have the opportunity right now to go out and have these conversations and start just ask the questions. Nobody's asking you to sell something. Just ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's common sense. Do you have a buy sell? When was the last time it was reviewed? How much has your business grown since it was put in place? I mean, these are low-hanging fruit. And just because they have a buy-sell doesn't mean that you shouldn't carry that conversation over. Now, I know we got everything taken care of as far as the funding for the business. Let's talk about what happens for your family if something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what you said, I think, out of everything, although I agree with all of it, that stands out and is the most important, at least to me, is that stop selling products and start solving problems. And, if anybody is listening to this podcast, in my opinion, that is probably the most important thing that has been said so far. And one of the things that I give to agents out there to empower them are the questions. Because you're not ever, ever, ever going to go out there and tell somebody what they ought to have or what they should have or what your CLU or CFP or whatever credentials you have taught you in a textbook. All your job is going to be is to learn how to find people that have a lot of family values, have a lot of love for others, and then ask them questions. So, Mr. Such and Such, if you got hit by a bus tonight, tell me what is important to you about X, Y, Z, and you tell me what you would want to have happen. And after I ask you a series of questions and you tell me what you want to have happen, I'm going to hold up a mirror and I'm going to tell you what the problem is. I'm going to tell you exactly how to solve it. And then it's up to you, because I can't love your family more than you do. I can't care about them more than you do. At the end of the day, I just asked you a series of questions about what it is you would want. You told me what you wanted. In order for you to accomplish what you told me, here. But people also have to understand, unlike the rest of their book, it's a very, very, very emotional sale. It is not a logical sale. And that is what's really, really a challenge for agents to understand and get their hands wrapped around it. It's very logical for me to go buy car insurance. It's very logical for me to go buy homeowner. It is not in the life insurance world. And so that is a challenge.
So listen, we're getting ready to go into a holiday weekend. For everybody listening, we're recording this the Friday before Memorial Day. I want to be respectful of your time. We could probably talk for hours and hours and hours, but I do want for you to take the floor for a couple seconds and tell everybody how it is they can find you and how they can find your workshops when they're going to be in their area, or if they're virtual and all of that. I want this to be, I don't want to say it's a shameless plug. I want it to be a plug. I want you to let everybody know how to get in front of you.
No, I really appreciate that. Well, the best route is for them to go to our website. It's p2p-academy.com. And so that is our web address. Once again, it's P2B, the letter P, the number 2, the letter P, -academy.com. And so
for those of you that don't know what a hyphen is, it's the minus sign, and I'm going to have the link. I'm going to have the link in the show notes, so you'll be able to get it from the YouTube description as well as the actual show notes of the podcast. But go ahead, keep going.
So that's what a hyphen is. Thank you for that. So what I would tell you is that if you want to get on the academy, we have a section just for PNC agents that are all of our systems, all of our language, all of our mindset and beliefs. If you really want to become an expert life insurance producer, and there are suggested curriculums in there, and you just have to follow along. On the website, if you go in there and you type in the word power in behalf of this podcast, POWER is how you spell it. How to do a hyphen, and now you got to have to spell power.
No hyphen there.
All in capital letters. So the word power in capital letters be for free for 30 days. So we ran.
Boom.
For the benefit, the reality of it is got a little glimpse here that I just went out for a second. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we're good.
No, we did. You're good. But I'm going to say it anyhow. People, power, POWER, no hyphen, all caps.
Yeah.
That gets you the academy for 30 days for free.
Awesome.
I don't know what else you could ask for.
Yeah. You got. So the bottom line is that, I'm a pretty intense guy. I got a lot of, when we do our workshops, we 50 people. And so that's the most intense way to get Jim Effner is to attend one of our workshops. But we replicated that online in the world we live in today. So somebody fly to where I am, and they're going to take the academy, and they can take it in step-by-step processes, and they can also apply the repetition as by watching stuff over and over and over again. Every tool they ever needed to be able to get really, really good at this business is on that academy.
That's awesome. Well, Jim, listen, I appreciate you spending about 45 minutes of your time with us today. I look forward to seeing how many people go take advantage of your very generous offer to get access to the academy for free for 30 days using the coupon code POWER in all caps. I hope you have a good holiday weekend. We really appreciate you being on, and just thank you so much for spending a portion of your day with us. I know this is going to bring a huge amount of value to our audience.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.